And we're live with Philip for episode 582. What is good, Philip?
Hey, what's up? Thanks for having me on. That was some nice stuff you said in the intro, Steve. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I guess we could say welcome back, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
True. Very true.
Philip, good to have you here, man. I got so many questions because I've heard so many great things about you. Like I said during sound check, I was visiting Brian Susan out in North Carolina, and we were just chopping it up, and we were talking about the whole, reptile podcasting, like who's out there, and he brought up you guys, and I've seen you guys. One thing, first and foremost, like as simple as the name is, like you don't forget when you see it, and I think that's important. People need to take advantage of that, man. But I feel like I just want to know how this came about. Before we even get into like what you're known for, like I want to know how you and Roy even came to mind to even throw such a cool project, as far as what we're talking about. Why don't we talk?
Yeah, for sure. So the long and the short of it is that I had been thinking about doing some kind of podcast for probably a few years. And I actually mention this every time I tell this story. A friend of mine, Jordan Russell, always told me, just don't bother, man. Like, it's too small of an audience and all this other stuff. And I'm just kind of messing with him now, kind of throwing him under the bus a little bit.
Please do. Hey, I love Jordan. I met Jordan. He's 45 minutes from me. He's not far from me. Yeah. And dude, I love Jordan, bro. But keep going, please.
Yeah. He's great. And he actually came on the show also. So it was fun to have that kind of back and forth. But
yeah.
Anyway, it was the kind of thing that I couldn't get off my mind. And I just kept coming back to. And not for any other reason, really, other than it was going to be an opportunity for me to learn and to just talk to more people, because I don't really get the chance to make it out to a lot of shows or expos. And so I felt like the number of people who I would get to speak to about herpetoculture was relatively limited. And so I thought starting the podcast would help with that. It would help give me more people to speak to, and it would just be sort of an outlet for growth. And I had been chatting with Roy a lot just on Instagram, and kind of felt like the conversations that he and I were having were really good and were a lot like the kinds of conversations that I wanted to have if I were to make a podcast, And so I just asked him if he would like to do it. And he said, yeah, hell yeah, let's do it. I made the name, made the logo. He started putting together like a guest list, and we started putting together a list of things that we might need and how to do it properly. We got a Zoom account, and then just started kind of shooting from the hip and just recording them, And so that's kind of the sort of compressed story of how it came to be. But now we're like 100 episodes in, which it's not that many in like the grand scheme of things, but compared to when we first started, it feels like a million shows.
I think 100's a lot. I think most reptile podcasts don't reach 100 for sure.
Is that right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I didn't know. Yeah. And it kind of runs away with you, like if you do enough of them and you record them regularly, the number of conversations, as I'm sure now, they just get away from you. You're just like, good God, has it really been that many? So it's pretty nuts. But yeah, that's how the show started. And
right.
As far as like the sort of like the why behind the show, I guess it's just changed a lot. Like when we first started the show, it was like, well, this is going to, as I mentioned before, this is going to help me learn. This is going to broaden the number of people I speak to. But almost immediately after having a few of these conversations, it became really obvious to me that I was kind of a dummy and just had so much growing and learning to do. It was like, oh my God, we just talked to so many different people, from, people who are very, very well known to people who aren't well known at all, like, or people who are just starting out, people who keep just one thing. But the conversations became really rich and really vivid and really moving, and like meaningful. And so to say that there was like a specific goal when we started the show would be maybe like a half truth. And to say that there's a specific goal now, even though there is some truth to it, and I could give a better reason for why I do it now, it it's still evolving all the time. I'm sure it's going to be different in 5 years, you know.
Steven, remember when we started Unfiltered with Forrest, right? And
Yeah.
and Forrest's whole did you ever know Forrest out Philip? Did you ever get to know who Forrest Fanning was from
Just through listening to
people?
a couple of mostly but I don't know, not person to person.
I mean, he's the only reason why I even had the balls to start a podcast, because I came into this, and after a year of like really obsessing over the hobby, I met Forrest, and he, was like, dude, he's like, he knew how outspoken I was, but I was a fucking moron. Like I knew nothing, and just, having Forrest like say, well, listen, I know my shit and I know who to bring on. I was like, well, dude, that's awesome. And remember, Steven, we were all about bringing people on who normally wouldn't want to come on, right? Like that was our whole goal. Like, like David Levison, who else? I mean, Tracy, he wanted Tracy Barker, he wanted Claudette Sutherland, like all these.
Brian in the first few episodes.
Brian,
yeah.
And so that was like a huge like turn on for me. I was like, dude, fuck it. Cause I'm all about rarity, man. Like I come from the DJ world. And so I didn't like giving out my music because I didn't want no one else to have my music, right? But in a sense, I looked at the rare like part of bringing people on who would never come on, but because it's Forrest that they like, they'll go on. I'm like, dude, we need this. Like that's important. So that was always like a goal for I think all of us in the beginning. What were you and Roy like? Like for instance, what did you go to Roy and tell Roy this is what we need to do, or this is what I want to do? Like what was already motive for you?
Yeah, it was really like the basic pitch was like, man, the kind of conversations that we get to have with our friends about herpetoculture, the kinds of conversations that you'd have drinking a beer at the bar at the end of an expo or the end of a show, like those are the kinds of conversations we should be having. And you know what I mean? Because it just seemed obvious. It's like, I can't imagine, like, why wouldn't you want to hear, I want to hear it. I love those kinds of conversations. They're the kind of convos I can have for hours on end.
I mean, if you're really obsessing over this hobby, which you should, right? Like that's the whole game plan. Obviously there's levels to obsession, right? But like meaning like wanting to learn because you do feel like an idiot when you first come in. Let's be real. And if you don't feel like an idiot, then God bless, you're not going to last. Like it's in your favor to act like you don't know it, because guess what? You don't know.
That's
like Google's not going to save you. These podcasts won't save you. Like I'm telling you, if you don't experience a lot of this shit firsthand, you're not going to survive. Like you have to know what to do when it's happening to you, like, firsthand. And that's kind of what changes, I think, every direction as far as passion for this, but obsession's everything. And this is why I always encourage like people keeping what they're obsessed about, because if you're breeding and you're good at breeding, but the market's whatever, it would never matter to you because you're obsessed with what you're breeding. You know what I mean? Like and I think that's, COVID fucked that up, unfortunately. Like COVID just brought dollar signs to everyone's eyes.
Yeah.
Sorry about, not to bring up the ball python community. I'm just saying that didn't help, but also
right now, right?
But there was also crested geckos, like they went ape shit too. Like I heard the market got really crazy with them as well. I'm curious with like the whole side of breeding, Philip, like what's your motivation with breeding and like bringing breeders on? Like, was there certain type of breeders you guys wanted to speak to? Like Forrest didn't want any ball python breeders. That was his thing. He said no ball python breeders except Miguel, right? That was the only thing he wanted. But for you, was there a certain like direction you wanted to maybe steer away from or have on, that kind of thing?
So actually, I probably would talk to anybody. I would talk to. So let me answer that in two parts. You said, was there like a specific goal, kind of a person we were looking for, a person we were looking to avoid? We weren't looking to avoid anybody, but we were definitely looking to talk to people who had interesting ideas about what we're doing and why we do it. Right. Which is why we ended up coming up with the question for the end of the show that we ask every guest, which is why herpetoculture, right? Because so much of some of it came a little bit out of frustration, because all I felt like I was hearing on like in the sort of like the public sphere about reptiles was the good old days and, like the don't tread on me attitude for why we keep. It felt like those are the only two things that I was really hearing about. And it's like, okay, well, the good old days are kind of gone. And it's not looking like as the world goes along, I don't think we're going to get access to ever more kinds of reptiles and amphibians. Maybe we will, but probably going to be pretty limited at some point.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it felt like I want to talk to people who have a more well thought out and fleshed out conception of why we do this, both philosophical, scientific, and just whatever is meaningful to you, like whatever emotional reason you choose to do this. Because I don't think, even though I agree with the "don't tread on me" logic, I also don't think it's sufficient for what we're doing. You know, I think we need to have a much more really meaningful reason for why we do this. And so that led us to seek out talking to people like Philippe de Vosgely and Will St. Pierre and Alan Rapace and some of these, and just everyone, like literally everyone we've spoken to, big name or not. They are people who are so interested in this and they're thinking about it in a deep way, in a way that's meaningful to them. And so the beauty of that particular baseline concept is that means we can talk to anyone. There's basically no restrictions for, you know, I don't care. I mean, we've had on, you know, John Scarborough, who's a very big leopard gecko breeder. You know, we've had on people who are breeding like one very rare type of snake. Like nobody's even bred this kind of snake before in the United States. You're just going to try to do it. We've had, you know, sort of all ends of the spectrum. We've had Josh Marquis on, right, who's a ball python guy. So it's like there's no, you know, barriers. I would talk to criminals, frankly. Like I would love to talk to, you know what I mean? Like
I think we have for sure.
Oh, for sure, yeah. But
Yes.
like I would talk to people who I would love to have conversations with people where they are involved in herpetoculture in a way that it would make it unethical to talk to them in some way. I'm interested in those conversations, even though we probably won't ever have those conversations. But I'm just interested in what everybody has to say about this whole thing. So that's kind of the baseline for like what we were looking for. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So how many years ago was this? You guys been at it for, because 100 episodes.
About a year.
About a year. So
a little more than a year.
So you drop it on weekly?
Yeah, we were. Yeah, it's a little. Now we've spaced it out to every 2 because I had a baby 6 months ago. My wife and I had a baby. Thank you. Yeah. And then Roy's had some pretty intense work stuff going on, so we reduced the total volume of shows just to accommodate our schedule a little bit. But yeah.
It's no joke. Like it's like you have good runs where like your life happens to line up where you could do these shows, but once fucking a wrench gets thrown in there, it's like it's you know. But listen, that's why it's always kind of good to commit to like one a week at least or something, that because that way it's not the end of the world if you miss a week or two. But listen, I don't know what else. I don't know how people else would do it. Like I do this for a living. Like this is my fucking life. You know what I'm saying? And I go hard in the paint, but like to manage everyday life, then get a kid, and then everything else changing, and then to remember to sit down and do a podcast when you have someone else. Here's the thing: for the most part, all my shows are solo. Like nobody really ties me down. Like I'm throwing the show no matter what. Right. It really fucks things up when you have when there's 2 people in the mix. Sometimes, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. And it would get. I mean, that happened. You know that we've had more than one show where it was just me, where it was just Roy, hosting the show. And some of those were actually some of the best episodes we ever did, oddly enough, you know, because they're either, you know, for one reason or another. But I relate to that too. You know, I've so along with the reptile business that I operate, I'm also manage a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai academy here in Colorado.
Dude, okay, hold on, time out. I do it. Yeah. So check this out. You want to and I train too, but I noticed something, and I'm gonna pull it up. Yeah. This one, I was like, I looked at your fingers and I was like, bro, I was like, so if you guys look carefully, it looks like his knuckle is right underneath his fucking, like, that's from gripping so insanely, bro. So are you a black belt? What are you?
Yeah. I've been training. This is my 18th year.
Dude, respect. Dude, I got to clap to that. Sorry, I'm a blue belt and I highly respect black belts. Like,
no, that's great, dude. Blue belt. Hey, most people don't even get to that.
No, it was the most intense fucking promotion of my life. But I will say I do respect everything that you that you put into 18 years. It's a commitment and it's no joke, bro. But yeah, I had to point that out, man. Those people, you know, obviously you look at some people you don't want to fuck with on the streets. The ears is one thing, right? but the knuckles right there. You see somebody with some gorilla knuckles like that, bro. Woo! You're going to bed. You better relax. You know what I mean?
That's damn funny. Yeah, I wasn't blessed with the cauliflower ear for some reason.
Good. I don't want that, man. Oh, man,
I do. I want it so bad. I'm one of those dumbasses. Yeah, I'm one of those jackasses who thinks it's like a badge of honor. You know,
I get it, but the ear's a painful thing. I'm sensitive. I got sensitive ears, bro. You know.
Well, some of it is from like when I first started jiu-jitsu. I mean, we won't turn this into a jiu-jitsu show, but
I don't mind.
When I first started jiu-jitsu, I was really shy and I was really not as confident. And so I kind of saw all these guys around me who I admired and I looked up to, you know, because they were all doing MMA and jiu-jitsu and judo and wrestling. And I'm like, fuck, these are hard motherfuckers. And they all have these blasted out ears and they're tatted up. And so I feel like I've just been, you know, ever since I started, I spent the last 18 years just trying to live up to this weird image of manliness thing.
One of my best friends who like got me into jiu-jitsu, like he's very proud of his cauliflower ears for sure.
Yeah.
Because it is like a badge of honor. Like it's not something you want to have, but like you're happy you have it. You know what I mean? Until that fucking needle's in your ear and they're sucking juice out of it. That's where I draw the line right there, guys.
That doesn't bother me but I don't get it. My ears are too floppy and even when I get hit, nothing happens. So I just don't get it. So you know,
all right. So go back to Matt. So you manage that, right? Go continue what you were saying.
Yeah. So I was just going to say that between running two businesses during the day and then trying to have a good relationship with my wife and spend time with my kid and, you know, and then also fit in the podcast. And I took up fly fishing in the last year and a half.
What?
You know,
where you at? You're in Cali, right?
I'm in Colorado.
Oh, you're in Colorado.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, dude, that's some real deal fly fishing.
Yeah. So it's the best, some of the best fly fishing in the world is here. So that's really nice. And then I used to there was a time where I was also fitting in my illustration too. Cause I went to college for drawing and painting, like 2D art and design. And so I was doing that also at the same time. And I was going to, and I hit the gym to work out. So it's like, sometimes I look around and I'm like, how the fuck did I ever manage any episode at all? Like, I don't know how. It was really, the last few years have been wild, bro. They've been wild. So,
especially, you said you have a newborn from 6 months ago?
Yeah, he's 6 years old, yeah.
Is that your only child?
Yeah, first one.
Whew. Great. And what do you feel when people ask you ready for another one? Like, does that drive you nuts? Like, what do you mean another one? I don't know. Like,
yeah. So actually, that's kind of an interesting question because there is, when you have a kid or when you're expecting a kid or whatever, there's all these like trite cliche sayings that everybody asks you all the time, like, oh, everything's gonna change. Like,
yes.
No shit, Sherlock. Like, duh. Like, what did you think? Like, no shit. It's not fair because I know they mean well. You know, like I understand that people mean well, but it's just like, you could come up with a more creative, like just a little bit of extra something. Not just say,
soaking up now goes by fast. No shit, it goes by fast.
Yeah.
I already know it does. Look at my life.
Like I am 30. I'm going to be 38 in January, and I'm feeling all the injuries of those last 20 years I spent trying to destroy myself in this stupid martial art. And it's like, I know time flies by because it feels like 3 weeks ago I could actually move right, you know? So,
dude, I had 2 ACL reconstructions last year.
Oh,
and I tried 2. Yes, my left and right. Yes, yes. One in May and one in September. And I tried rolling like 2 months ago. It didn't work out. So
I'm so sorry, man. That sucks.
It really is because you kind of get like, if you devote your life to it and then you get hurt, you kind of get depressed from not rolling. Like you get and your energy gets all fucked up because you got you got all this intense stuff going on with you. Like, it's a crazy balance, man. But like you said, like life happens in so many different directions. And it's not an excuse, I guess, to get thrown off because, like, people are probably wondering, or whoever hasn't heard this yet, like, why Roy isn't here. Well, life hit him in a certain way where he can't be here. But like, also, like moving forward, is it just gonna be you even on your own show? Like, can we talk about what the future holds for PH right now?
Yeah, for sure. So, the back end of that is that Roy has decided to take a step back from the show just because of the circumstances of his life. He's got so much going on. He's hitting like a big stride in his own personal life and hitting it like he's trying to hit some career goals. So, obviously great, great for him. So from now on, it is either going to be just me doing the show, or I'm going to pull in another person if I can find that right person, I haven't decided which I'm going to do yet, because I feel like that decision is like worth sitting on, like I got really lucky when I asked Roy the first time to start the show, because he and I just happened to complement each other in a way that was really, really beneficial, right? I'm like loud, gregarious, and all of my thinking happens verbally out in the world. Roy is stoic, more reserved, and very, very poignant when he decides to say something, right?
That's like Steven. That sounds exactly like Steven Kush.
Yeah, right. So it's like an important dynamic, and and also there were ways in which we kept each other in check, so like Roy and I, we don't have identical views about what we want to see in herpetoculture. We align on most things, but one of the benefits of our dynamic was that he and I thought we don't have the same like worldview, and so that was a really good thing. It's like a really beneficial thing. So on the areas where we align, we could really really nail down on some cool stuff. And on the areas where we diverge, because we have so much mutual respect, we were able to really explore some of those divergences in a way that was illuminating for either me or for him, given the specific situation. So if I chose to bring someone else on the show, it would have to be someone who kind of fit that bill or brought their own unique dynamic to the show and to the experience. And if I can't find that, I'm just going to continue to record shows in the meantime anyway.
I agree.
And then if I can find someone, fine, I'll bring someone else on. But I feel like, I still feel fully equipped to take on the show as a challenge. And I attribute most of that to the last 100 episodes that I've done with Roy, because it's just taught me so much about what I'm doing, not just with the podcast, but in herpetoculture in general. And it's led me down some really, I feel like the last year of my life has been one of the most intellectually interesting years of my entire life. So I'm really happy about that. And I want to keep that ball rolling,
Yeah. It's one of the many blessings about the reptile world, man. It's like, life continues to happen, but I feel like because of reptiles, I don't know. I feel like it always works out. I feel like if your heart's in the right place and which I feel like I love reptiles because it keeps me grounded and where I need to be. Because if not, then goddamn, good luck.
Yeah.
And I feel like life will always manage itself the way it needs to if your heart's in the right place by the reptiles. But to going back to what you're saying, Philip, and me and Steven, even when Forrest was around, like we all have chemistry. Like Forrest was different from me and Steven. Steven's different from me and Forrest. But like we're all able to we all could bring the best out of each other. And I feel like if you can't bring someone on who could spark that fucking fire in you to talk about some stuff, because Steven, we would start going at it about some stuff, right, Steven? Like about stuff we felt really strong about. And Steven was very reserved in the beginning. I mean, if you go to the very first episodes ever of him being on a podcast, he can't even speak. And I think
I wasn't given a mic, so that might.
You didn't have a mic. I forgot.
Or headphones either. I was just kind of the eye.
I forgot. This poor guy. He just sat next to Forrest. While Forrest had his mic and had his headphones, I had my mic and headphones. Steven just sat there, stone faced, and now I know why. You poor guy. But even then, Steven, you were kind of you didn't want to. You're 17. You didn't You didn't want to speak back then at all. But you eventually started opening up the floodgates a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. But like I said, I don't think it would have lasted as long as it did if there wasn't that chemistry that we all have with each other. And I think that's important. Philip, I think one of the biggest problems with reptile podcasts that are happening, you have people who need a co-host because they don't have enough to talk about. They don't know what to say. They're new. right?
Yeah.
But for you, you got so much in you where
I got a lot.
It might even be better to be solo on certain occasions.
Yeah.
I told Steven this hundreds of times, you know?
Yeah, I've definitely thought about that, you know? I mean, it's no secret to anyone that knows me that I like to talk and I can talk a lot. And sometimes that's more of a negative than a positive. But, you know, I think that there were aspects in which having Roy there really helped anchor me to would remind me like, okay, let me shut up and let Roy get some words in here because I can just dominate the conversation. And, you know, but having him present, having his face on the screen was a way of reminding me like, shut up, ask some questions, don't just talk, you know, so it was really good. But I still feel very confident that I can move forward in a way that's meaningful. And so, you know, I'm excited for what comes next because I really have to say I've been, when I said that the last year has been like the most interesting intellectual year of my life, and I really mean that. Like I truly, really feel that way. And I feel like this last year or two has been very transformative and in a way that's hard to elaborate on. And some of that has got to do with the podcast. Some of it has to do with having a kid. Some of it has to do with, you know, managing this jiu-jitsu academy. Some of it has to do with getting older. Some of it has to do with developments in my reptile business and all of that stuff. But it's also just in the things that I'm reading and learning about. They're very much informing my philosophy on what I do with the reptiles. So it's a cool moment to say, all right, well, maybe just my show now, you know? So I feel like I've got a lot on my mind, you know?
I bet, but that's why it's even more important for you to, you know, roll those fucking episodes solo, man, because you never know. Like there's been things that came to my mind after doing something solo where I didn't even think about talking about it, but because I'm in the zone, I'm like, holy shit, I want to talk about this. And
completely. Same here. Absolutely.
Dude,
I feel like those solo shows, they break up the flow a little bit of like the routine of your podcast. And, you know, I mean, for me, like some of my favorite episodes that I've done have been when I'm just speaking to the computer like a crazy person for an hour and a half. Like 2 hours last night of just rambling about scrub pythons. But I think it also gives the listeners a bit of a different angle into what you talk about and how you kind of process the information. And I feel like it's also a great way to just like reflect on life in general, or like your collection or your breeding or whatever you're doing, that, you know, we don't really get in the fast-paced world of today that frequently, especially, I mean, Phil, your life is a lot busier than mine is, but I know what it's like to have that kind of chaotic life, and 6 months can go by and you haven't taken 10 minutes to reflect on anything that's happened. So
there's definitely like a weird like habit that I've developed where I disguise my leisure as work, you know, like, because then it's like, I have like I'm pretty overactive. I'm just like an overactive person, you know, I'm just doing shit all the time. It's very hard for me to take vacations. We just took 2 days up in Buena Vista, Colorado in the mountains for Christmas. And it was hard. I just went fishing. I just like was moving around and was doing work from the phone, and just like, it's really challenging for me to disconnect. And the podcast is one of those things. And so I've sort of disguised this leisure as something of work. I can tell myself I'm getting it done and I'm putting in the hours and I'm putting in the time, but it's actually really more than anything, it's leisure, because when I'm done with any of the episodes, I just feel so fucking energized. You know?
Yeah. Oh, and it's like getting done training or something.
Oh, it's awesome.
It feels great.
Yes. Yeah. And there's so much buzzing around in your mind. And even if you're like a little tired, there's this euphoria. There's this feeling of like, wow, that was really awesome. That was such a good show. Yeah. You know, so it's
I feel so bad because my wife, God bless her, she makes some bomb dinners, you know what I mean? But she'll be like, yo, your food's ready as soon as I'm done off a podcast. And I'll be like, yo, I'm not ready. I need to just chill for a little bit. Like, I don't
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll go straight to eating, but like I almost want to go drink or like go party or something. Like I'm fucking I'm jacked up. Like I'm pumped up. And then I smoke and calm my ass down a little bit. But that's what I'm talking about, man. Like if you run a reptile podcast and you don't get fired up after every episode, then you're not doing it right, first and foremost.
Yeah.
But I also challenge you to like do a fucking solo podcast. Like, you know, can you do a solo podcast? And here's the thing, there's not enough solo podcast episodes out there because there's not enough people who are really dedicated to both crafts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Willing to do so. And that's why I think that's a huge like favor for you, Philip. Like you got something which we're about to talk about. I can't wait to talk about your passion projects and what you have going on as far as a business. But man, like you having all that knowledge and having that fire within you will do tremendous on a solo podcast for sure. So I encourage you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate the encouragement. I hope you are correct.
Yeah, definitely. But I don't want to grapple you if I'm wrong.
Oh, that's fine. It'll be good. It'll be fun, man. Look, I'm just kidding.
No, I'm good.
I'm not trying to hurt anybody that I roll with.
I'm down. No, I hear you. All right. So listen, let's get into things. I want to know, like, I guess not what you're known for, because I mean, Steven kind of made that like a well-known theme. But let's talk about like what it is that kind of gave you the foundation you have today to even say that you have reptiles and you're able to make a living off of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I do. I definitely do. So I'm going to preface this with something that I feel like just becomes a little bit more true for me as I get older, which is any kind of like goal planning or like career visions or like vision board, any of that shit. I have no idea how people do that because I feel like I have just like fumbled through, you know what I'm saying? I feel like I've had like the only thing I've ever known for sure that I was going to do in my life where I was like, I'm doing that. I don't care if I die on the way. Like I'm going to do that is getting my black belt in jiu-jitsu. That's the only thing I've ever given that much of a fuck about. Right. In terms of like pursuing it and having like a clear goal. But I went to college for drawing and painting. I was going to be an illustrator. I was going to do concept art for games and film, which I did for a little while. I did that. I lived in Berlin for a little bit, and I lived in Texas, and I lived in Seattle, and that's what I was working towards. But reptiles have always been there. They've always been a part of my life. I've always been really passionate about them, and in ways that were really confusing to me. I just like never understood why because there were times when it felt like a burden. When I would have a room full of bearded dragons when I was in high school, or when I had just moved to Austin, Texas, and money was really tight, and yet I spent $500 on a setup and getting an oscillated Uromastyx so I could keep it in the studio at the college where I was going to.
Sacrifices.
Yes, sacrifices, or another name for bad choices that paid off. And so they were always there, and I'd always made some money. Breeding and selling the occasional thing. But somewhere around 2012, 2013 or so, I committed a little bit harder, and I was breeding a few knobtail geckos, and I was selling and making a small amount of money on those. But, it was like sort of like a net and zero where I was like, it was paying for the power, it was paying for the feeders, it was paying for the hobby, like for new animals. So I was like, okay, this is going well. And I decided to, for some reason, put a pair of Uromastyx Thomasai on a credit card, and it was $3,500. Totally smart choice. I was like, this is going to work. And I bought them and sat on them for a couple of years, and they bred, laid eggs. The eggs hatched. I sold the babies, and I realized I was like, oh, okay, like this actually can work.
What year was this?
This was like 2013, right in that ballpark.
Wow, we're talking well before the social media blow up. Like right when like Instagram started, basically.
Yeah, that's right. I was using Instagram for my artwork at the time.
Wow.
And I made a separate one for the reptiles because I realized it didn't make sense to post them together. And but so I was, and it worked out, and it just kind of snowballed little by little. I was able to breed a little bit more. I was able to produce a little bit more. And then I had like a couple of interesting interactions with other big breeders who were doing it for a living. Just a random phone call. Like, one of them was Ty Park, one of them was Joe Hupp. And I just reached out to these guys, and I was like, you really do this for a living? Like, is this how you make your money and all this stuff? And they were like, yeah, you could totally do this. Like, you're really good at it. Maybe you should think about expanding. So I convinced my family to let me rip up the basement and tear up the carpet and deck out the whole basement with lizards. And then I had a horrible year where I got clutches of eggs from every single species I was working with. And out of like 100 eggs, about 20 of them hatched. And it was just a disaster. And I thought, what have I done? I've spent all this money building out this space, and my family let me do this. And I can't believe that I'm here and I fucked up this bad. And then what else was I going to do but keep trying? It's like, I already have the stuff. Like, I can explain it away as a fluke. Hopefully this wasn't something I did, whatever. And so next year, the opposite happens. Everything produced, everything hatched, and it was just great. And there was a period of time there where I was living at home and operating the business out of that while I was still competing. Because I competed in jiu-jitsu a lot. I was traveling to compete and really, really dedicated. So, I was training like 3 times a day and just beating the shit out of myself. So I was living at home. I was focused on that. And so then, the reptile business grows and it starts being my income, and it's how I'm getting paid. And I'm kind of surprised. I'm like, I can go do stuff. I can like take a vacation, and I can afford to fly myself to Lisbon to compete in the Europeans out in Portugal. Yeah. Like, great.
You got capital, buddy.
Yeah, that's some capital. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, and for several years, the Uromastyx market in particular was really, really hot. So it was like, I just could not produce enough animals, for years. I just could not. People were just beating down my door.
And how many different species are we talking about here? Like, what can we kind of get into? Wow. And we're all same type of lizard, or what are we talking?
Yeah. They're the same genus. Yeah. So there's.
Why don't you school us on that? I'm going to pull up your page. Yeah. I know you have quite a bit of these type of species, and like for instance, like, what is this one? This is nuts.
This is Uromastyx ornata.
And is this like what like this isn't a regular run? Like this is a morph? I'm assuming.
No. This is wild. This is how they look in the wild. That's a young one too.
Fucking way.
Yeah. So just scroll a few. I'll tell you when to stop.
Okay. Like go down.
No. I mean same post. Sorry.
Oh, it's my bad. All right.
So it's all right. So.
Oh my land. So look at that.
That's a nice one, but not that one.
Oh my God!
One more. That's
a chameleon.
That's the
guy. My God! Look at that one.
So that guy, he's like kind of my. That's my guy. But he's like third generation captive bred. And he's not even full grown at all. Not even close.
So this is your latest and greatest. Like this is like your pride possession right now as far as production goes.
He's probably the nicest ornate that I have. Yeah.
And let's say I'm big baller and I'm like, yo, I want to buy that. Like. Man, and name your price. Like, what would it like? This is kind of just theoretically like. Let's put. Okay, you're on your way out of the hobby for whatever reason. You have to sell it. It came down to it. What would it be number wise? I'm just curious. Give me an idea.
Man, that's a hard one. It would for him. It would have to be like probably 5,000. I think. There's no way.
That's not that much.
Yeah, he's not. He's an incredible animal. And he's really, really friendly, and he's gorgeous. Like he's about as nice as I've ever seen him get, especially as young as he is. But they're not selling for it. Those ones. Most Uromastyx are not selling for the top dollar like that. Some of them are for sure. Like we can talk about morphs and stuff, but that's another young ornate. So that's just a young guy who, as he's maturing, all that color will just explode and just pop out over the next year or so. It's pretty amazing to see. But so there are about this is a Tenasera conspicuosa.
So different. This is a whole completely different lizard.
This is a San Esteban Island iguana. Yeah. So these are. So you mentioned you asked earlier a little bit about like kind of like what I'm doing with the reptiles and yeah, Uromastyx, Xenogama, Chuckwallas. These are the kinds of things that if people know of me, that's how they know me is from those species, right? But there's sort of like an overarching theme that I'm going here. Yeah, it's a Xenogama taylori. There's kind of like an overarching theme that I'm going for here, which is like relatively low maintenance, very interesting desert reptiles.
Oh my God, look at this thing.
That's a Moroccan Eurymastix eating a grasshopper, which is pretty rare.
This thing is badass.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
All these are kept around the same husbandry wise? Like we're looking at the same setup across the board here or no?
Within 70% of the same of each other, right? So, there would be some small differences in the way you might keep various species, but nothing remarkable difference wise. Yeah. So yeah, same thing with, and so, there's a different one. That's a much more expensive Eurymastix, the yellow one right there in the middle.
This one right here? Yeah,
that's
very rare.
The lavender albino Eurymastix JRI. It's very.
So this is a morph right here.
Yeah, that's a morph. Yep.
So can we talk about this morph? Like, what's the morph game looking like in these?
Okay, yeah, definitely. We can definitely chat about this. So morphs in Eurymastix are relatively new. There are about 4 genetic mutations that I'm aware of that are like public knowledge. You have the lavender albino JRI, which is this one. You have the patternless patternless Mali Eurymastix that is produced by Nicholas Alexander. You have the hypo ornate produced by Scott Wilson. And then there are a few, just 1 or 2 other oddballs that we've seen pop up either in Indonesia or in individual clutches that haven't survived yet here in the States. I have a project or 2 that I'm working on in the background that I'm just gonna mention that I'm working on some stuff. I'm not gonna say what they are at the moment, but so
it's a morph though?
Yeah, it's a morph. Yep. A couple of them. And and so it's definitely there. It is going to be a little bit different inherently than other morph markets. And let me just elucidate a little bit about why. So when you have any of the major herpetocultural players, whether it's ball pythons, leopard geckos, crested geckos, bearded dragons, corn snakes, you name it, you have a baseline level of appeal and pet appeal, right? That people, it's easy for your average kid to take care of those animals. They can keep them as a pet. And then you have the sort of physiological structure that sets those animals up to be able to produce that way, right? We're talking about relatively speedy growth to maturity. We're talking about relatively high reproductive rate, and we're talking about a long breeding life, right? So you take those 3 things and then insert the demand, and you can get a real wildfire, a real explosion out of the market. With Eurymastix, it's going to be a little bit different. And the main reason being they don't produce at the rate that all of these other species do. We're talking about a 3-year minimum to sexual maturity. Okay. So you have to wait 3 years. Even if you're doing everything perfect and it's the best it can be, you've got 3 years. Okay.
And it can even be easily longer than 3 years.
And it could be longer than 3 if you're trying to get it figured out. Right. But along with that, we're talking about once a year breeding at most. You have very rare individuals that will double clutch, but that's very uncommon, right? Mm-hmm. And then what you have is it's not huge clutches. We're talking it can be as little as 6 and it can be all the way up to 25. So there's a range, but the average falls around 14 to 16. So in that ballpark.
These little guys have they can drop that many eggs.
He's only like a year old. He's
okay. So they get bigger than that.
Oh yeah, they get much bigger than that. Yeah. But they have the notable distinction of being relatively easy for a new person to care for. So the ornate Eurymastix and the Nigerian Eurymastix, which is this one that is on the screen right now, those 2 species, any kid who can care for a bearded dragon or a leopard gecko can care for a Eurymastix. You can do it. So they are a relatively low bar for entry, but there's a physiological cap on how many you can produce, right? So what this means is that this is a great opportunity for people who are interested in getting in on an interesting project that has a lot of potential, but they're very, it's going to take some doing, like you've got to really mind your P's and Q's. But if I recall correctly, there are books way back 30, 40 years ago that speculated that ball pythons might not even be able to breed in captivity, right? So
I mean, that's the biggest thing that makes me laugh is I bring an OG on here and they say how in the 90s, it was damn near impossible to fucking breed a ball python. And it was one of the hardest things to breed at one point. And now we can't get enough of them. So
right, which would bring me to another piece of my interests, but I just want to flesh this out first. So Uromastics are just along with Xenogama. So I think also Xenogama are another reptile that have a lot of potential for being very, very popular. And
is that on your page too?
Yeah. So just scroll up a little bit. Go back to that first post that we were. Go up. Go. So click on this one right here. The one that you remember, the first one that that one. Click on that and scroll. Yep. Keep going. Little more. Yeah, that one's wild. There you go. Xenogama taylori.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Like a fence lizard.
Yeah, and the little keep going. There's a couple more. So the males get this blue.
Wow, look at that. That is
dude. That paint shows up only when they're trying to breed and then disappears in seconds.
That's weird.
It can pop up and disappear in seconds. There you go.
So is that the same lizard or no?
Same lizard. Yeah, it's just facing. It's facing away, so you can't see the blue. Okay. But go one more. No, the other way. Yep. So there you go. So there's one digging. There's the eggs. There's the animal.
That's neat, bro.
Yeah, they're really cool. They're tame. They're easy to care for. They reproduce. They can lay about as much as a bearded dragon. They can lay a lot. So these things also are another animal that I think all it's going to take is somebody getting something cool to hatch out of one of these. Somebody.
Yeah.
Hatching a melanistic or an albino or something, and people are going to lose their mind about these. But so the broad overarching scope of my work is desert reptiles that I think are really excellent candidates for herpetoculture. And the reason I find them to be good candidates has to do with how easy it is to give them a high standard of care. So that's kind of like where the river that I'm on, that's the river that I'm floating down right now. So this is a San Esteban Island iguana that I've been working with, the little baby female that I've been working on to try to keep getting her mellow and chill. And she's going to jump out and get into the bucket. She's awesome. She's going to come running for mealworms. I love these guys. But this is, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, so all these are kept in the same room, like same building, right?
Same space. Yeah. I've got a 2,000 square foot flex warehouse where I operate out of. Yeah. And so I have everything spread out inside that space. Yeah.
What's your ambient during the daytime versus nighttime, or does it change at all or no?
Yeah, the ambient daytime in the winter is 82, 83, and the ambient in the summer is like 95 to 98.
Damn, your room's cooking.
Yeah, it's hot. It's all desert stuff, man. It's all
I get it. Fuck, bro.
Yep. And then in the wintertime, it can get at night. It can drop into the 60s, 70s inside the shop, just depending on how gnarly, how far I have the heater going. See, she's jumped up onto my shoulder. She's a cool guest.
So that's a kicker with some of the species that people think it is a walk in the park to breed. But if you're not able to give them those drops, right? And I want to know how important are those drops when keeping such a species, not to survive but to breed successfully.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you can't breed them without those drops?
No. So my current framework is that most of the things that we think are super, super difficult to breed, with exceptions, of course, I'll leave in the exceptions. There's always exceptions. Most things aren't that difficult to breed. And then the things that we think are super, super easy and really, really, really like breed automatically are a lot harder than we think they are to do right for a long time, So I think Uromastics are relatively easy to breed. They just take a little while to figure out their quirks. The temperatures don't seem to matter too much. All of mine go through an ambient drop-off because of the space and the way it's set up, right? It's concrete floors. It's like a garage. So when it gets cold outside, the ambient drops inside the building. But I have done all kinds of experiments where I've kept the temperature the same throughout the year. And as long as I'm keeping all the animals solo and I introduce them in the spring, that seems to be sufficient stimulus to get them to breed. They don't seem to require the drop. I do it sometimes just out of good measure because that's my business. That's how I survive. So I try to do things to try to ensure that it's going to happen, but none of the animals seem to care whether or not they get like a hard temperature drop or a light one or none at all. Usually it's, for me, the key ingredient, and like, this is such bad practice, right? Because everybody says that if you've got like a trade secret, you should keep it to yourself. Right. But I've been shouting this from the rooftop for years and nobody listens to me. You just keep them alone. You just keep them solo. Don't don't keep them in pairs. Don't keep them in trios. Just keep them in their own freaking cage and then introduce them in the spring and they will breed. It's all you have to do.
That might be a lizard thing across the board. I feel like.
I think a lot of lizards are like
that. I think just in general, they don't, separate them for majority of the time and you put them together when that time's right. I mean, what do you think, Steven? You've worked with tree monitors, the big monitors, and there was times where you didn't get shit, no action, and they were cohabiting together.
That's most of the time. I mean, my record with monitor lizards is pretty abysmal.
It's a sore subject.
I mean, I'll talk about it, but even the same with like the Abronia breeding back in the day with Forrest, like anything that was kept in a pair, just nothing bred. Trio, nothing bred.
It is the biggest. It's the thing, right? Because if we want to keep reptiles, we want to keep as many as we can, and we don't want to have a million cages. And part of the fun is seeing them interact and do their thing. And how are they going to breed if they're never together? What if I miss it? There's all this shit that will prevent you from just doing the right freaking thing and keep them alone 90% of the time. You can introduce them for socialization hour. That's fine. It's got nothing to do with breeding, and it has everything to do with making them like not a sociopath, because solitary confinement will make a sociopath, right? So you can do that. But then if you want to fucking breed them, keep them alone and introduce them in the breeding season when you want them to breed. Raise them from babies. Don't buy retired adults. Don't buy old adults. Just buy the goddamn baby, raise it well, and then do that. And they'll breed. They will freaking breed. It's the same thing I do with every damn animal I have. They're all kept solo, except my stupid tortoises. And the two,
I think that's a good point, though, is like, if that's something that you want to do, pick the right species to cohab with. Mm-hmm. Like your tortoise example.
Or Egernia.
Or for me, like my, my spilotes are all cohab. Most of my rattlesnakes are cohab, but those are species that thrive in a cohab setting.
Yes.
Or, like, for instance, like with the monitor lizard discussion, you're giving them a roommate, and that's really about it.
Right.
If your goal is to have a nice big display enclosure with a couple lizards in it, okay, then you're accomplishing that. But if you have any intention of breeding, you're just you're cutting corners, and you're not going to accomplish anything.
Well, and it is so easy for you guys both understand this because you have animals that you've spent time observing and you've spent time seeing and getting to know their quirks, right? Mm-hmm. So you intuitively understand when two animals that are housed together are not getting along as they should, right? There are obvious things that show themselves to you right in the face all the time. One animal's bigger and fatter than the other. One animal has scars or scratching on the back of its neck. One animal is out all the time. I hardly see the other one ever at all. I mean, for fuck's sake, it's obvious. There are so many things that are obvious, and then there's the less obvious stuff, but just the obvious things should be enough to show you that keeping them apart would be more beneficial. Think about it from a systemization perspective, right? If you're thinking about it as a business, and you truly have to think about it as a business if you're going to do it as one, then it matters that as many animals at any given point in time reproduce. Yeah. Well, to maximize whether or not each animal is going to reproduce, what you want to do is you want to have complete control over every single animal in your facility and what they're getting and what they're not. When you put two animals together, you do not have control anymore over which animal gets more or less of the resources, which animal gets more or less of the vitamins and supplements, which animal gets more or less of the attention. You don't have control over that anymore. And if you have something go wrong, you can't, if it's two animals, you're unable to pinpoint which animal it originated in and what you can do about it. So from my perspective, it's even a more ethical choice to take better care of each individual animal and give them the highest quality of life, to keep them fucking alone. Sure. Just keep them alone. And then do introductions. Just do introductions. It's not that hard. So I get why people don't want to do it. And I obviously don't think it has to be for everything. Because again, my tortoises, my Egernia, my Pseudocordylus, my Chuckwallas, they are all housed together. but they freaking evolved to be that way. They are supposed to do that. And uromastics are viciously territorial, and it makes sense why. So even when you think they're getting along okay, they're not. And that's why stuff goes haywire, is because you're forcing them to undergo a lot more stress than they need to.
Well, this is kind of that 30% that you talked about of everything is the same for that first 70%. And now the last 30 is kind of that's where you kind of make and break your operation. And
I agree.
Right in that conversation of this applies well for, you said your chuck wallows and your attorney and whatnot. Go over here to the uromastics. If you treat that the same, you're going to, it's going to be a complete disaster. And that's sometimes what sets apart the people who are successful from the ones who aren't, is you either are one, not willing to give that level of individualized attention, or you overextended yourself so much. And I know this because I used to be this guy.
Yes.
Where you're so overextended that you don't even have time to have intricacies within your system.
Yes. Yeah, that's absolutely right. And it applies to everything else that you're doing, because I was just on this other show recently and I was talking about how, there's this concept. I'm sure you guys have heard of this. You've heard of the concept of Umwelt, right? It's this German biologist who came up with this idea of Umwelt, which is like, it's not just getting an idea of the likes and dislikes of the animal that you're trying to understand. It's about stepping into that animal as a being. Like, how do you step into what it's like to be a tiger, or what it's like to be a uromastix, or what it's like to be a scrub python? Because by projecting yourself into the experience of that animal, that's how you're going to get a better understanding of how that animal interacts with its environment and how it feels based on those interactions. It's not just a matter of like or dislike. It's much more nuanced than that, right? And so with the uromastics, I don't know why, but with those animals in particular, and to a lesser extent, the chuckwallas, the xenogamas, I feel like I get them a little more. Like, I don't know why. I can't explain it. There's something about the desert reptile, the desert lizard, the boulder obligate that I just am like, maybe I was like a boulder obligate lizard at some other life. You know what I mean? I don't know, but I feel like I understand. And so I was keeping my Euros separate very early on because it was so obvious to me that they hated being kept together. Like it was like, I'm just going to keep them apart. It's way lower stress, and it just solved so many problems. And to this day, look, there are people who do it differently than I do who have great success, right? You got Camille Hammers at Hammerhead Reptiles in the Netherlands. He's one of my good buddies. He keeps everything together, but he also splits stuff all the time, right? You got Nicholas Alexander, who's another guy who got a ton of his Euros from me. He's been breeding them for a long time. He's doing a great job. He keeps his stuff together. But both of them operate in a very, very different ways. And the way they set up their enclosures is totally different from the way that I set up mine. So they clearly, I think those two guys are sort of counterpoints to the way that I do things. But I would be willing to bet hard money that if you raised up 5 other Uromastix breeders and you had them do it my way, they would breed more reptiles. I guarantee it. Like, I would bet so much money on that. So much money. I just don't have it.
It's kind of why I obsess over, like, not only being in the reptile industry, but having a podcast, because you meet somebody who's successful at doing something at the exact opposite of someone else who's successful doing it, right? Yeah. And so, like, this is why it's almost like, it's good that you're getting information, right? But that's not going to guarantee that if you fucking follow those exact steps, that's going to work for you. Like, you almost have to figure out what's going to work for you. And you are going to go through times like what you did where you just tanked in a whole year, right? But instead of giving up, you're like, is this a fluke, or did I fucking, there's just that figuring out moment. But once you kind of figure your place in the hobby, dude, there's no looking back after that.
Yep, that's right. Yeah. And, that was a hard year. And I remember it, like, for the next 3-4 years after that, I was terrified. I was like, dude.
And that's it. But that's also, you need that too. That terrifying feeling, like, that makes you really appreciate the good times. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
that's absolutely right. And it was like 10 years before it happened again. So then 2 years ago, it wasn't 2021. It must have been 2020. I got I probably had 300 eggs and hatched about 125 of them. And it was like, it was such a horrible ratio. It was like, it was unreal. It was still enough, like it was enough animals to get by.
I'm curious, what was it though? Like, why were the numbers? Why was the ratio so down that year? What happened?
Yeah, so in the very first year, and the one where it was really early on, and I had like 100 eggs and hatched 20, that was because all the animals had arrived at my place in the same year that they bred. So what I found is a lot of Uromastics need at least one season. They have to go through one whole season in the home that they're going to breed in.
Right.
Otherwise, stuff goes a little spooky with their breeding. Not all the time, but most of the time. So I don't know if what it is a baseline level of stress that causes problems in the development of the eggs, but the same pattern happens all the time. You see this with people who cohab their animals. You see this with people who buy adults in the early spring and then try to breed them. Everything seems like it's going the right way. Both animals are eating, they mate, the female lays eggs, and one by one, the eggs just crash in the incubator. So my current working theory is that it's a baseline level of stress. So they have to have gone through at least one season in your house or in your facility, understanding what the temps are, and then they're much more likely to breed successfully, because that's exactly what happened in that first year where everything tanked for me. Almost all of the ones whose eggs tanked and didn't hatch had arrived to me in the spring when I bred them. All of like the 20, 30 that did hatch, those had all been there for more than a year. They'd gone through a whole cycle at my place. And in the most recent one in 2020, when it was like that terrible, like less than 50% hatch ratio, it was, frankly, I don't know what it was. I still haven't really figured it out. I think it was just one of those years where all the animals could have used a year off and didn't get it. And because what it wasn't like I was losing eggs all the time. It was weird little things that were happening. My mom was helping me out collecting eggs one day and dropped the container, which was a total accident. But so that was a clutch of 25 eggs, right? There's 25 gone. And then I had 3 or 4 first-year females who laid like 18 or 20 eggs, like huge clutches, but something went weird in the nesting and she like cracked half of them, in like 3 or 4 different clutches. So there's 30 eggs that are all destroyed. And then you have like normal mortality, which like if you get a clutch of 20, you might lose 2 or 3 eggs, right? Sure. Not all the time, but sometimes. But if you've got 6 clutches of 20 and you lose 5 or 6 eggs per clutch, that's 30 eggs. They're gone, Yeah. So sometimes the large percent, that's why you got to go by the percentage, because it was about 40% hatch rate, which is still really bad. But most of the time I average about an 85 to 90% hatch rate. So that was every year over year. So that was that one was a fluke. That was a very strange occurrence. But I've also had the same thing happen with my Xenogama, right? Where like brand new Xenogama that come to my place that breed in the first spring that they get here, usually the eggs don't do very well. Once they've been here for a season, they're off and running. And I produce like 150 Xenogama a year. And so they're fucking awesome. So yeah. Anyway, that's what I think happened.
It's crazy though. Like if you talk about even all like the ratios that don't go in your favor, like you're still blessed to have animals to give it another shot. Like let's think about the fucking people that get wiped out by either a virus or like something that burns down, like the nightmares that we are up against sometimes keeping with what we keep. Like, I mean, it could always be worse, I feel like, and that's why, that's why I feel like you got to like keep your head forward sometimes and just, you got to pay attention,
You couldn't be more right. The reality is that a problem is an opportunity to remove an obstacle between you and success. That's what a problem is. So if something happens, it's not a catastrophe. It's not the end of the world. You've now been informed of something that doesn't work in what you're doing, and you get to take that out of the equation. So it's a way of perfecting your methodology year over year, because when it's a good thing to encounter hardship. It's a good thing. Yeah, and we're all of us are very used to letting it be catastrophic, because if it's your business, how do you pay your bills? Right? Well, that's why you set things up to where that kind of catastrophic failure doesn't kill you every year. But you have to learn that lesson too. And I was really lucky to learn that lesson while still living in my parents' house. So the rent wasn't hanging over my head at that time. So I was able to figure it out. Now I know. So I moved in. It was also 2020, that same year where everything went to shit, was when I moved into my new facility. I went from my house to the facility that I'm in now, the 2,000 square foot warehouse. So I've been in there for 4 years. This is going to be year 5. And it was, I'm really glad I got to figure that out before I moved in there, because then it was like, okay, when I move in here, I have to sufficiently scale up in a way that, in the worst year, I can pay for the rent. In the worst year, things will still work out. And that's what happened. I had 40% hatch rate, which is fucking terrible, but it was still enough to get by, So it was risky, but it wasn't that bad,
So, with this being said, what are your thoughts of people checking out of the hobby so quickly after just coming in, 3 years ago, And I would always kind of like use the ball python community as an example, but it's not just ball python people.
Oh, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. And so I don't want to just target them, because it's not fair to just target ball python people. It's happening all across the board. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. I can hear you, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So it's, I guess they're like a little bit complicated, like I think if your goal when you start working with a new set of animals is, solely focused to try to make a return on those things, that's probably the wrong motivation to get in. But if what it took for you to figure that out is blowing 30 grand on a bunch of animals and then finding like, fuck, I shouldn't have done that, and maybe walking away, like, okay, that's what it took for you to learn that lesson. Fair enough. I really try my best. So Uromastics this happens all the time in the Uromastics world. Like every year there's a new person who's like, I'm going to breed Euros at a big scale, and I'm going to crush this. Like I'm telling you, every single year there's anywhere from 1 to 5 people who decide they're the next big Uromastics breeder. Right. And my message to those people is hell yeah. Like, absolutely. If you can do it, let's do it, because number one, it's going to make me better at what I do. Sure. Right. So healthy competition is a good thing. Mm-hmm. Number two, I also recognize that I've got 15 years on you. Like like it's going to take a long time to catch up, but I hope you do it, because we need more people. I think herpetoculture needs more people. Like we need to have more people in herpetoculture trying this stuff out, because more people interested in reptiles and amphibians makes more people interested in reptiles and amphibians. So I want to be encouraging as often as possible. I still think you should try to go into it for the right reasons, but we've all made mistakes. I've got a long list of canceled projects that could have been impulsive buys or things maybe I was a little stoned one night and I was like, oh, I'm going to do these animals. And then I next thing I know, I'm like, fuck, like, fuck. Like I did this.
I've never bought anything I regret stoned, because I'm stoned fucking all the time. But hammered drunk, I bought some shit that I've regretted, like Joe Spitalski shit that should never bought and hammered, but it was a good deal.
Let me tell you, I have bought reptile projects inebriated, and I've bought Pokemon cards inebriated, and I've been like, what the fuck am I doing, dude? Like, what the fuck? I did not have $500 to drop on a shiny piece of cardboard. What is wrong with you? Oh my God. So, like I did this last week. I bought like $200 worth of Pokemon cards. I don't know why.
But also like going back to your point about like, you don't have much money, but you're dropping X amount of money on this reptile, right? But dude, that's okay. God forbid nothing happens to it. That's an investment. That's an asset. I feel like I got so many of those same scenarios that luckily they're alive. They bred for me. Yeah. I've made money on them, but again, I was obsessed over these animals. Like I looked at these animals every day and I wanted to make sure they were taken care of. And I looked at behaviors. Are they happy? Are they not happy? Like, you know what I mean? All that stuff came into play because I obsessed over it. You know what I mean? So
yeah. So I think there are two things to say on that. So if you buy, let's just say it's year 2025 and I'm going to choose 5 new ornate uromastics to bring in, and what is that going to cost me? Okay, let's say it's $5,000, right? Let's say they're $1,000 a piece, and I buy 5 of them, so it's $5,000. It's not just 5. Let's say I get all 5 of those females to breeding size. That is an investment that grows over time. So when you drive your car off the lot, it depreciates the second you get it off the lot. You start losing value out of your car.
100%.
For a reptile that's in your breeding program, that animal is not just money in what it produces, but it's also she just churns out more of that animal. So you don't have to, you make the investment one time. You make the one-time investment. You don't have to buy anymore. Like you just keep breeding them, and you keep gaining more. That $5,000 investment, as soon as it's paid off, becomes a $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. And every year that those animals produce for you, and their offspring produce for you, and their offspring produce for you, like it's not the same kind of investment as a car. So an animal appreciates in value in its strictly financial terms, if we're not talking about how awesome they are as pets, right? So they continually increase in pet value, and they continually increase in monetary value, right? So, and then everything else that you're doing, let's say you're trying to make reptiles a business, right? If you're doing side projects, that is the herpetocultural equivalent of research and development. So you are investigating another thing to either learn more about what you do, or to see if this other thing that brings you joy, that is as deserving as the projects you're already working on, make the cut to get into your full-time lineup, So 10 years ago, it was just uromastics. And then about 8 years ago, I added in the Xenogama, right? And so then the Xenogama were research and development. And it took me, I missed like 4 or 5 clutches before I ever got them to nest properly and get them to hatch. So then, but as soon as I did, they were obviously the right thing. As soon as I figured that little notch out, it was like, okay, these are obviously the perfect thing to keep working with. They're now a permanent resident. The Chuckwallas were research and development, that they made the cut. So I've got the butterfly agamas, a couple of tortoises, and some pseudocordylus. Those are the next thing right now. This is the research and development I'm doing now to see if they're worth keeping around. Do they fit in sufficiently in my space? Can I get them to breed? Is there a market for them? That's your research and development, right? But it just takes on a different angle when you're talking about living animals, right? So you have to, as soon as it's a living creature, now it deserves like a different level of involvement, but it is still the same thing. It is still research and development, and it is your responsibility to ethically source them and ethically find new homes for them when you decide that project is no longer for you anymore, So it takes on an added sense of responsibility, but it is exactly the same thing. You are building what you do and why you do it, and you're learning more from each thing. You're building a resume. You're getting more information, because I've learned things from keeping the tortoises that I have now that apply to the uromastics in ways I couldn't have understood if I didn't do both.
So much to learn, man. And this is why, and I always say this coming from example, but it's good to be excited, but it's also good just to slow down, because you're going to learn a lot. And there's some things that you can learn when you're at a level of capacity, and you're like, holy shit, this one mistake's gonna fuck you really up right now. And now, when it comes to spreading yourself too thin, it's easy to do in this hobby. Especially when you see all the social media stuff and you see all the trending reels, and people think they can just collect things as babies, but then you don't understand these things grow quickly. You know what I'm saying? And just all across the board. And I had to rehome my lace monitors, man. That was one of the saddest things ever. And they went to good homes, and I'm okay, but I really underestimated the size individually that they needed. You know what I'm saying? A goddamn whole room individually is what they need. Really, they need more space than you could possibly give them. And and it was a tough pill to swallow, but man, it's a lot better than me having to feel the neglect that I feel like I'm giving them, but not having their own individual enclosure that is big enough for a goddamn adult lace monitor. And adult lace monitors get really big. They're big. Right. They're huge. Right.
Yeah, they're massive. Well, and I mean, again, even these things of enclosure size versus, how you keep and what kind of keeping you're doing, right? I think there's a world in which There's like a very highly ethical methodology around rat keeping that can be totally great, right? There's ways to do it very well.
Yeah.
And then there's ways of doing the most naturalistic, bioactive, triple espresso keeping on this side that can go horribly wrong, right? So there's no perfect metric. You're always working with an imperfect system in some regard. You are not nature. You're never going to recreate all of nature. So we're making a trade-off here, right? We're making a trade-off with the animals between, look, I'm going to give you the best life I can, and in exchange, you're no longer going to have to worry about food, water, predation, or finding your mate. Like, I got that all sorted for you. And I'm going to do what I can to make your life as good as possible in the meantime. So that's the trade-off we're making with these animals, right? But there's definitely like a point where when you start keeping large numbers of animals, now most of your trade-offs have to do with space and how much space and resources you allot to each individual animal, right? And most people will make a monetary, they'll use a monetary reason to say that I have to reduce my overhead in order to keep this many animals and be profitable. It's like, okay, well, that is referring to short-term profit, right? Yeah. That's a short-term methodology. If you invest more into the animals that you're keeping and into their well-being, you are extending the life of that animal and extending the possibility of it both returning on the investment you put into it, but also setting an example for other people. So that has compound effects over time in the same way that compound interest does. And so I choose to give lots and lots of space, even to my very small animals, because I know that it's going to benefit them in the long run. Now, I've made the opposite decision with certain other species. My Uromastix thomasi, I have chosen to keep them in smaller enclosures because they do better when I have them set up that way. They are happier, they are fatter, they are it's obvious that they're enjoying themselves more when I keep them in something smaller than I was keeping them, 5 years ago, or when I keep the ornates in, So making the best choice for the animal doesn't always look like going to one extreme in the way that you keep. And making money doesn't always look like going in the other extreme, in the other direction, and mistreating things. Like we are all of us, every one of us is looking for that beautiful middle ground where we can just cruise and ride that wave, and we're not crossing into a realm of lack of ethics. And we're also able to live like a good life, and we can, make some money doing it, So I'm still trying to figure out exactly how to make this perfect balance. Like, I don't have it all figured out myself, but working on it.
But like, what a balance to figure out when you're growing into it, right? And I always just feel like the best way to do it is just to like slowly like understand things as you're going along, but like grow into that at the same time. Just it's the whole idea of like seeing somebody be successful with a certain reptile species, and then somebody goes, well, I could do that, right? Or they are like, well, I have a room that's empty and it's perfect for all this shit. And they just fucking, next thing you know, within 6 months, they got a room full of reptiles that they just found out about that year.
Yeah.
And trust me, I'm nobody to talk about this. I'm literally a spit image of this, but goddamn, did I learn a lot of difficult lessons. But also, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, because of those lessons, I have a lot of knowledge now. I feel like. But man, I had a lot of stressful nights too,
Yeah. Well, I definitely think maybe in like 500 years, when there's like a really well-defined methodology for how to make a business out of herpetoculture and somebody puts it in a book somewhere, right? We'll probably have an understanding of what like the correct velocity is for at what rate to expand and sort of how and why that matters, Oh, yeah. But I think right now, it's just like Pokemon cards, right? Like people get caught up in their addictive, or what's the new thing? The they're like the modern day Beanie Baby. It's like this stupid little jelly.
The Ultraverse or the Miniverse. It's called Miniverse or something like that, right?
I don't know. It's like these tiny little plush. It's like plush.
It's like reality, but mini, like small, isn't it?
It's like plush patisserie, but it's seriously just like little baked goods, but they're like a Beanie Baby. They're like a stuffed animal, right?
Yeah, that's new to me.
But the thing is, these are trends. There's like a hype moment. So we've all been in that moment where we get into something and we're like, I just got to get it. I got to get all of it. I got to have everything, right? And so I think you kind of have to go through that a little bit, depending on the kind of personality type that you are. Maybe not everybody goes through that, right? But depending on your personality type, you might have to go through that because then what you find out is like, oh, there's a rate of overexpansion. I overdid this. I overstretched myself. Like I wasn't ready. So the thing that I use when I'm teaching jujitsu is like, if I want to deadlift 800 pounds, I don't load up the bar with 800 pounds and pull until I can't pull anymore. You know what I mean? Like you build up, you work up to that. You're gradually pushing out your comfort zone little by little. I like to draw. There's like a little diagram that I have drawn on the board at my shop. And it's like a bullseye. It's a 3-tiered bullseye. So in the middle, it just says comfort zone. And then there's like a second ring. And the second ring, it says learning zone. And then the third ring on the outside, it says chaos zone. And so I have little arrows drawn going out of the comfort zone, but then staying inside from the chaos zone. So you're always trying to stay in that learning zone, right? Because that's like where you want to be. That's where you want to be when you're lifting. That's where you want to be when you're learning anything, because that's where you feel really, really good. And I think it's really easy for us to like push way out into that chaos zone where things starts to get really crazy. And that's where everything starts to fall apart. That's where everything goes haywire, because nothing's getting the attention it deserves. The things that you're really good at are suffering because you're trying to figure everything out over here and you're not paying attention to the thing that you're really, really good at. You got to keep that main focus. You got to keep it the main focus. Because if you don't,
dude, I have to snap myself out of it sometimes. Like I'll have like so much shit I have to do and I'll just freeze. And I'm like, yo, what are you doing? Like you need to fucking snap out of it. But then it's just kind of like it's like I'm in my own head, and I'm just like, I'm thinking about all the stuff I need to do. And I'm like, what should I start first? And then I'm like, wow, look at this YouTube clip. I better watch this. And then I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, get to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Dude, I should have. Oh man. So I love talking. Okay. I joke about this all the time, but about once a quarter, I get like a total wild, crazy thought in my head that I'm going to go ahead and get Mississippi salami salamanders, and I'm going to set up boxes and boxes of them. And I'm going to just like, I'm going to figure them out. I'm going to crank them out. There's like this is it. This is the thing. Or like, you name it. Like I have the weirdest ideas about things I'm going to do. And I think you have to, I think you kind of have to have that a little bit. Like I think creative, like generative individuals, it's just part of what your normal process is. It takes a while if something's going to stick, Like if something's going to stick, it's probably pretty meaningful because you're generating lots of ideas all the time. This is when I was doing artwork, when I was doing illustration, that's why you keep a sketchbook, is because you have to get out all the shit. You've got stuff you're thinking about all the time. You're generating images, you're generating concepts all the time. So you're sitting and drawing them out, and inevitably you're going to do like 10,000 of them. And then one is going to make it to a final piece, just one, because that was the only one that was even worth it. And when you go back and you look at the other ideas, you were like, God, those were terrible ideas. Like, why did I do that at all? Like, I'm such a freaking idiot, So I think that, but again, it's where we have to be really, really careful when we're dealing with live animals, because their experience matters, right? So it's always balanced out. You're always balancing out against the ethics of what you do.
Yeah, and it takes time to really figure out what makes your animal happy sometimes, and that's why it's also good to make sure that you're understanding that, are you keeping it the right way? Like, is everything I'm doing what it should be? Just because your animal's alive doesn't mean it's like, it likes its surroundings and it's okay with it. Like this is why sometimes it's, as lovely as it is, ball pythons being the biggest like gateway drug into the reptile hobby. Yeah, you could really neglect the living shit out of ball python, and you're not going to know because it likes to hide. It wants to be in a fucking dark area. And, that's it. If it's eating for you, then you think, all right, it's fine. And I personally feel like, I've gone on this rant many times, but I feel like ball pythons love being in a rack. Like that they want to hide. That's the kind of animal they are. Personally, I feel like, but it changes when you have other animals or other species that show you they really appreciate the husbandry that you're giving to them. And I didn't learn that until I got into monitors. To really, actually, retics. Like when I was going through my stage with retics, and I noticed they were pushing. When I was like, dude, this is not good. Like, why are they all pushing? And I realized like they were miserable. They didn't want to be what they were in. And that's when it opened. That was one door opening thing for me. You know what I mean? I rehomed all my retics after that. But then with the monitors too, you know what I'm saying? Like, not that Mac Drain and Alice were like unhappy, but once they got to that size to what they were, and I tried breeding them, that's when I was like, holy shit, bro, this is not good, because there were moments where Alice wanted to get away from Mac and she wasn't happy and she was like almost ready to fuck him up. And if she were to fuck him up, I had nowhere else to put him. So that's not a good position to be in. You know what I mean?
Right. This was actually, so about a year and a half, maybe it was a year and a half ago. For some reason, my timeline's kind of fucked up right now, but I donated my Egyptian Uromastyx to a zoo down in Florida. It's Ty Park's place, because they was just like, I was keeping them very well here and they were very happy, but it was obvious to me that even in these, I had them in 8.5 by 5 foot pens, these big open top pens, and they were absolute stars. Like Pork Chop was like a social media star. Everybody loved him, but like, it was obvious to me that I wasn't getting them exactly what they needed, and it was just, I knew Ty was going to give him a 15-foot cage, so I let him do it, and it would just made sense for me. And, producing them became really difficult because the number of people who I knew who were keeping them very well, just the list was super small and it stayed small, and I didn't like that. It makes me feel icky. Right. So, you mentioned your retics. I think that when we think of like an upper limit, we have a tendency not to think about the lower limit of things too. So in the same way that I can't keep my horse in an apartment, right? If I have a horse, I can't keep it in an apartment. You're sort of required by law, right, to give it a sort of an ethical life, right? I think that there are upper limits in our reptiles, and that where it's like, okay, past a certain size, now we're talking about something different altogether. Let's talk about what it really means to keep these in a meaningful way. And if you think that is going to prevent a market for those animals, tell me there's not a crazy market for horses, bro. Nobody can keep a fucking horse. It's a horse. Right. It's a damn horse. Like, yeah, you can, there's an up, so, but what I mean by this is like, in the same way that there's an upper limit, and I might personally, my own personal beliefs might put things like croc monitors, black throat monitors, reticulated pythons, berms, anacondas, caiman. Let's just say there's an upper limit for some of these animals where it becomes so challenging to give them a well-meaning existence to where it's maybe a little prohibitive to talk about, like maybe keeping them is not something we just let happen all the time. Like I'm open to whatever that means. I have my libertarian leanings, so just take it easy. But there's a lower limit too, right? So nobody bats an eyelash about the way rodents and mice are kept in feeder or lab settings. It's fucking horrific. Like
terrible. I see not good.
They are brilliant, feeling, intelligent little organisms. Rats and mice are brilliant little animals. So
it's fucked up.
Yeah. So, but there's a lower limit too, right? Because, but I probably wouldn't extend that same courtesy to a mealworm. Okay. Yeah. So like, I kind of feel like a mealworm only has like 10 neurons. So like, it's not a big deal, right? Or like a mollusk. Mollusks have no nervous system. There's no pain to be felt there because they don't have a nervous system. So I feel like there's a lower level too, to where below a certain point, we're talking about something that the ethics don't come into play in the same way.
Wait, what about grasshoppers?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's something that it's like to be a grasshopper, but you're also food,
I used to enjoy feeding those fuckers off.
They're so cool.
Sometimes I wonder, like, damn, dude, like,
yeah,
he had a little homie that it probably just was hanging out with right now.
Right. Well, but it's not to say that like you shouldn't feed a grasshopper or you shouldn't feed a rat or a mouse. I have animals that eat, whether it's the Ctenosura, the spiny-tailed iguanas, or whether it's the collared lizards that I used to keep, or some of the geckos that I've kept. They are deeply predatory. They will eat other geckos, and I fed them other geckos. Like I will feed lizard prey to my animals that eat lizards.
Me too. I love that shit. That's actually
it's part of their diet, like, and is it uncomfortable sometimes? Yeah. But that's the trade-off you're making. Like if you eat a steak, it's a cow, right? If you're feeding your dog, lots of animals had to die for your dog to eat. So that's,
I like that. I like that analogy, the lower end of things. Like you don't think of that.
Yeah, that lower end matters, right? Because that's going to help you have a different conception for what the upper end matters. Why the upper end matters,
it kind of goes back to the bullseye. You want to be in the learning zone, like that happy medium zone.
It's a sweet spot,
This is a fucking epic podcast, by the way. This is a really good episode. This is next level.
And so I really, the thing that I've been on lately, and I talked about this with Bobby on Gecko Cove recently. Like My whole thing right now is domestication. I think it's so obvious that what we're doing is domesticating our animals, right? So some of them, like ball pythons, leopard geckos, corn snakes, crested geckos, you name it, bearded dragons, are already showing dramatic, telltale examples of the domesticated phenotype, right? Whether this is breeding out of season, producing at lower age, reproducing at younger ages, producing larger than the wild average of offspring, high prevalence of white in the color palette, shortening snouts, changing structure, right? Like this is happening no matter what you say. It is obvious that it's happening, right? And so then, we can divide the domestication thing into two sections where we've got the part where we've got animals that are absolutely showing it, and it should just be no secret, and it should be okay because everything's domesticated, right? Like guinea pigs and koi and tulips and mealworms and cows and chickens. Like domestication is a natural part of being in the world. It's a natural evolutionary adaptation. But domestication also looks like something else, right? So everyone will mention the Russian fox domestication experiment, which is really, really famous, really well documented. This Russian guy took all these foxes, took like 100 of them in a breeding facility, and only selected for ones for a single trait, which is lack of fear of humans. And within 5 generations, he had foxes that wanted to be pet, that licked you in the face and wagged their tail. They had floppy ears and piebald coats. And the takeaway that everyone pulls from this is, oh, wow, there's like tag-along genes when you select for tameness. But that's great. That's a good takeaway. But the more important takeaway is that if you're selecting for any number of things, any number of traits, any number of whatever, you are inevitably going to have tag-along traits that you cannot predict, because nobody knew that the floppy ears and the piebald coats and the wagging tail was going to come as a result of just selecting for friendliness and lack of fear, right? So all of the people out in herpetoculture who are, their whole thing is like, I like locality specific or pure wild type or whatever. It's a complete fabrication. You will not have that. You can't do it. It is not going to happen, because you are selecting for the animals that you keep back. You're not nature. You don't know what the perfect scarlet king snake is supposed to look like. So inevitably, in 150 generations of those being bred in captivity, they will look different than the original ancestor, no matter what you do, no matter what. Yeah. So the takeaway for this is to embrace this and make the choices that are going to make those animals as happy and healthy as possible. Don't select for Great Danes because we know they die at 9 years old because they have human growth or a growth hormone problem, which is why they get higher rates of cancer and joint issues. Select for a giant leopard gecko that doesn't die at 10, that dies at 35 after living a long, healthy life. Select for animals that enjoy your company, enjoy being in captivity, and like the things that and do well off of the diets that we give them. Do not select for animals that have to have a C-section in order to have puppies. It's just completely irrational, right? You can track the. There's a book I read called Domestication by Richard Francis. You can track the correlation with racehorses between the amount of money injected into the racehorse industry and the rate of miscarriage and stillbirth in the horses. They track perfectly with one another. Yeah. Right? Because now all of a sudden the money is pushing against what the biology of the horse is capable of. And if we want to have horses forever, breed them to some weird shit. Breed them to some step horses. Like, do some hybridization, Like, the idea of purity in an animal that's never going back into the wild is out of control. Like, go for it. If your favorite thing is a locality-specific granite night lizard, by God, more power to you. I want you to do that. Like, just don't. It's great, but just don't fool yourself about what's happening. You're going to change the animal, and you therefore embrace a little bit more the hybrid world, the morph world, because these are they're not problems. These are God. I'm going to go on forever. What's a wild type? If you find an albino chuckwalla in a rock pile in Arizona, does that not qualify as fucking wild type? Yes, it does. That's a wild type lizard. So it doesn't matter. We're arguing over things that are.
It's all a facade.
it's all a deep fake to get you to not know that we're in contact with aliens. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this is really eye-opening, to be honest, because it makes sense what you're saying, but it's just also something that people don't. They don't. I mean, where do people talk about this type of shit? You don't hear this stuff. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, most people are just like, they're just doing reptiles as like a side thing, you know? Like I have a friend my friend John, who got me into fly fishing. He's a guide and he's been fishing since he was like 5. I bet he could go on at length about like why it matters that you want this one particular line and leader set up and like 4x tippet when you're fishing this kind of fish in this kind of weather with this kind of fly, with this kind of cider material and this kind of, you need a 7-foot 3-weight rod and this reel, because he's in depth. He's like in the weeds. And the only reason that I'm talking about this stuff is because I have like a mental illness and I can't stop thinking about this shit. You know what I mean? Like I just read, I'm in the middle of a book called Why Did the Chicken Cross the World? And it's all about like chicken domestication and how they spread across the globe. Wow. And I learned that when the chicken arrived in like Iran, there's a belief system called Zoroastrianism. And in that belief system, the devil figure, like the evil figure, is called Angramanyu. Well, Eublepharis angramanyu, like the leopard gecko, it's like the huge leopard gecko species. Yeah. And you're like, whoa, like I didn't know that. Well, apparently there were plenty of people who knew that, who were really, really into Angramanyu. I didn't know that, but it was like a cool way of getting to that answer and finding that out about like, why did they give the Latin for this thing to be this like devil name? Geckos are super cool. Like, why did they call it? Maybe they believe they're poisonous, like they do of the Abronia in some of where the Abronia are from, right? So my problem is like I can't help but think about this stuff. It's just the kind of stuff that I'm really, really, really interested in, and I can't stop thinking about it. So it doesn't mean I'm right. It's just like this is the kind of shit that goes through my mind when I'm like can't fall asleep at 3 a.m.
I love it, but we got to land the plane here. So why don't we have Steven? Why don't we let's hear a wrap up topic or question that you might have for Philip, and I'll go after you.
Yeah. So I think a good question to ask after this conversation would be, you now today, what's 1 or 2 pieces of advice you would give to yourself, say 14 years ago?
Good one.
Oh man. Probably just don't stress out so much. Like it's all a fucking game, right? Like the worst things that you think are going to happen to you, like the things that feel like they're going to be a disaster, they're not a disaster. It's okay.
Yeah.
Probably that. Just like develop a little more resilience and read more stoicism, maybe. Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. I think that maybe other stuff like buy Bitcoin, like yeah, that's I'm going to take it back. If I could give myself advice 14 years, I'll buy and hold Bitcoin, dude. Hold it to 2024.
Oh my God.
That was a great answer.
We're going to the moon.
That's yeah. Let's fucking go. Yeah, that's great.
All right, my question for you, my wrap up question for you, Philip, is overall market feeling wise, with the popularity of just the reptile game in general, like if you could control how popular the species you're working with gets, where would you want to take this? Like are we talking ball python level if you can, like sky's the limit, or do you feel like that's asking for asking for something we don't want right now? You know what I mean? Like, where do you want to take this?
All right. So my answer will depend on what herpetoculture looks like from a base level in like 100 years. So if in 100 years, herpetoculture is sufficiently revolutionized by innovative people and companion AI to where we are able to give the very best baseline level of care to all of the companion animals we have in the world, I would love to see Uromastyx being one of the most popular animals on Earth. They're beautiful. They're some of the most incredible, interesting, and unique lizards that I've ever encountered. There's a reason I've stuck with them for so long. They captivate me in a way that I can't understand. But if the herpetoculture of 100 years from now looks exactly like it looks today, I don't know. I would like to see them get a little more popular, but maybe not too much more, because I don't want it. It just depends, like I don't want to see them being hawked for $20 somewhere.
That's what I'm saying. Like, like with popularity means more people, and people just fuck things up. Like that's the, it's a part what we do. Like the more people involved, the more chances someone's going to fuck it up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It sucks.
I mean, maybe that's why we need some companion AI, because then like that companion AI it'll be like, listen, Jim, that's a little unethical, don't you think? Like,
maybe by then everyone will have those Tesla robots that are like fucking like their maids, and like imagine having a robot that is like set to know perfect breeding habits, like stuff that that was successful the year before, and it's there to correct every step. That might be next level. I don't know. Well, sounds expensive.
Do you mind if I give one
Oh, dude, go ahead, please.
Really quick before we stop.
Yeah, please.
So, if you look at other like domesticates, many of them have kind of become like a cultural icon, right? So if you look at like a chicken, there's a lot of symbology in ancient cultures for chickens, but there's also like a lot of like nomenclature, like the cock of the walk. You're being a chicken, you little bitch, but chicken bitch, like whatever. You strut like a chicken. There's a lot of like it's entered like the cultural lexicon. Horses, same kind of thing. Like horses had this massive cultural impact on us because not only did it give us power to move over land, but it gave us power militarily. Because if you had horses, you fuck people up, right? You sacked some cities. You went Mongol style. So I don't know which comes first. I don't know if like the domestication happens and then they become kind of a cultural thing, right? Or if it's the other way around. Maybe these are animals that we admired in their wild state that we brought indoors or into our homes, and we were like, oh, horses and chickens rule. Like, turns out we can make them lay eggs and produce milk. Hey, that cow does the same thing. Let's get that cow, right? So I kind of have a feeling, and I'm probably so wrong about this. This is probably so far off, it's not even fair. But like, I kind of have a feeling that, and I've said this before, is like, as we're destroying all this wild landscape around us, for now, we're bringing all those animals that we're not seeing outside our windows anymore, that we're not interacting with every day, we're bringing them into our homes. So what I'd really like to see is I'd like to see a world in like 100 years, 500 years, 1,000 years, where reptilian and herpetofauna domestication has sufficiently changed, or has taught us a sufficient amount about our psyche and about the world we live in, that they become cultural lexicons. They become something in our culture, like cock of the walk, or like that's fucking king lizard over there, some bullshit, some as of yet to be described like slang about reptiles. Like more symbology. I think I'd like.
It's not negative either, because I think as of now we just have negative symbology with that. Like you're a snake. That's not in the grass.
Yeah, like positive verbiage, positive nomenclature, like, my God, that dude's stoic as an iguana, like, because I mean, or a tortoise, right? Like a tortoise is so stoic.
Like if calling someone a scrub is a good thing, that would be
right. So, and I think the hard reality is that in 500 years, the herpetofauna we're keeping indoors with us doesn't look like the herpetofauna of today. There's just no way. It's not possible.
Yeah, there's no way at all. Yeah, but I mean, it's probably going to be for the best ultimately.
I think so.
As long as we're legally still allowed to do this. I feel like we're not seeing regression as a whole. Obviously, there's people who are fucked up, but as a whole, I think we're trending in the right direction.
I do too. Yeah, which is why it's so important to have more people involved and have them involved in the right way. So making sure we're not like gatekeeping and pushing new people out of the hobby, bringing people in and encouraging them, drawing a bigger circle, right, to include more people who are like you. Like I'm amazed at every facet of herpetoculture. It blows my mind, from the most incredibly like Roy's setups with his spilotes are just, they're so beautiful. There's so many ways in which he does it right. And I love that. And I just sit and scroll on Instagram and just look through John Scarborough's leopard geckos like, my God, that's one of the most beautiful creatures I've ever seen. Like, how did you make that? You know, it's like all of it's amazing. So draw a bigger circle, bring more people in.
Philip, you're different, bro. Like you gave love to leopard geckos right now. Like that just does not happen. I know, man. I know. I respect you so much. Like,
Thanks,
man. Epic. This is a great episode. But listen, I got hot seat questions for you before I let you go. Okay, and then Steven, why don't you end it with one hot seat question for him at the very end? You cool with that?
Like a fun one or like a?
Well, I don't know, Steven. You pick, dude. It's a hot seat question.
Okay, all right.
Make it hot. All right.
What does the hot seat mean? Does that there's like a limited answer time?
You just got to answer as quick as possible. If not, you're gonna look like a loser. You don't want to do that.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm just kidding. You're not gonna. But listen, it's all about the quicker the better. Okay. All right. So guys, do me a favor. Get the likes up right now. It is hot seat question for Philip. And like I said, man, the quicker the better. Okay.
Okay. Sure.
All right. Here we go. Hot seat questions. Damn, it's been a while. I don't even know where they're at now. Where are they at? I should know these by heart now too.
530 something times or whatever. So
okay, here we go. Egg cut or no cut?
What does that mean?
Would you ever cut an egg, like a reptile egg, or never? Like
no, never.
Favorite species of lizard?
Oh, Fiji crested iguana.
Easiest lizard to keep?
Oh, leopard gecko.
Yay imports or boo imports?
Yay limited responsible importation. Yes.
I need that. I'm going to ask that one more time, sir. It's a yes or no. Yay imports or boo imports?
Yay imports.
One reptile you would import to your collection anywhere around the world, what would it be?
Naltinus geckos, some of the Naltinus species from New Zealand. To me, they look like they're the most beautiful thing in the world. I can't believe it.
One reptile nobody should import. Leave it alone. Don't touch it.
Komodo dragon. Don't touch it.
Nice. Respect.
Leave them the fuck alone, dude. Let it be. Dinosaurs, dragons need to live in the world.
To spray and mist your reptiles or to not spray and mist your reptile?
Depends on the animal, but yeah.
Yay sports or boo sports?
Sports?
Yeah. Yay or no?
Fuck yeah. Yeah. Hell yeah. Sports rule.
Favorite sport, even though I know maybe I have the answer to this, but what's your favorite sport?
Actually, judo, not just jiu-jitsu. I think because I've been doing judo for like 12 years and I love judo. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I like jiu-jitsu is my passion, but I admire judo and wrestling so much that because I can't do it very well. I'm okay, but not very good.
Steak or fish?
Oh man. Steak.
Yay alcohol or boo alcohol?
Nah, boo alcohol. I don't really drink.
West Coast rap or East Coast rap?
Oh, East Coast. Nas for sure. Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah, I was gonna ask you what's your favorite wrestler.
Nas, dude. Hell yeah. He's the GOAT.
Favorite Nas album?
Oh, Stillmatic.
Oh
yeah.
Why is that automatic? Still, I just first thing in mind. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Little word association. Just say the first thing that comes to mind. You ready?
Okay, sure.
Milk.
Cow.
Substrate.
Dragon.
Reptile industry.
Fuck. I don't know. Reptile industry. Ball python.
FedEx shipping.
Terrible.
Instagram trolls.
God, I want them to die.
Okay. And I'm not mad at if you don't say the answer I want you to say because I understand your ties and I get
I'm just spitballing. I'm just
say the first thing to come to mind. All right. Wait, hold on. Before I say this one, favorite choke.
Choke? Oh, which jujitsu choke? Triangle.
Triangle. Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
all right. Last but not least, first thing to come to mind. Coolest reptile network in the world.
Oh, Trap Talk, baby.
Yeah, I was scared. I'm not gonna lie.
I gotta give an honorable mention to the Animals at Home Network.
Yes, I fuck with Dylan tough. Hey, listen, I will say shout to Dylan. Respect to Dylan. Love his work. Always been a fan of Dylan. Okay. But all right, Kush, take us home. What do you got?
Okay. So this is predicated on are you like an active UFC fan? I assume you are.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay. So would you rather see John Jones versus Aspinall or Pereira?
Ooh. God damn it.
I will
right now, I think I'd rather see him versus Aspinall because
of beef. There's beef.
Yeah, he's a thick boy. He's large. Pereira, if he gained 10 or 15 pounds of muscle like 2 years ago, maybe then I'd want to see Pereira more. But I don't think Pereira's grappling doesn't look very good. So I think John Jones would murder him. Whereas Aspinall is more well-rounded. I think more well-rounded.
And the size is more matched. Like those are two big boys, bro. Like
and it's more of a mismatch career-wise too, because like John Jones is at the tail end of his career.
And the other guy's up and
coming up, but Pereira is also kind of at like the tail end of his career, you know.
Right.
So I think Aspinall probably.
But Aspinall, like making it seem like John Jones is ducking him is wild. You know,
that's chaos.
That's why I'm like, dude, this guy is so deadly. Are you kidding me?
John Jones is the fucking goat. He can do whatever he wants, like in terms of fighting. You know, like, and I say that whereas my personal goat is going to be Habib, right? So Habib's the man. I got nothing but love for Habib. When he jumped the cage to beat the shit out of Dylan Dennis, I was like, wow, this is great. I love this.
Hey, fuck Dylan Dan. I can't stand that. I'm so glad he's gone. Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah.
Listen, hey, I need you back for sure. We need another episode for sure from you, Philip, because I know we could go another 2 hours easily. All right. You're that much packed with knowledge. So I appreciate your time. Why don't you go and just shout out your plugs as far as where people can follow you and when's the next, PH episode happening? Why don't you just say all that now?
Yeah. So Project Herpetoculture podcast, which is on the Animals at Home Network. You can find that anywhere you can find podcasts. Next podcast will come out next Friday. And then my personal page is Arids Only on Instagram and YouTube, and aridsonly.com.
Yeah. Cool. You'll find all the links in the description below. So make sure you go check them out. And more importantly, get the likes up. And it's a wrap for the homie Philip of PH. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up. Thank you, man. Hey, nice meeting you, Philip. I appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much. This was great fun. I really appreciate it.
We'll do this again soon for sure. Thank you, bro.
Sounds great.
Later, Philip.
Bye, guys.